Welcome. In today's video, we're diving into donut charts and pie charts. We're gonna stop if you ever make a pie chart that looks like this. It's cluttered, it's just so hard to read. If you have a ton of tiny little slivers, just stop what you're doing. This is how you're supposed to make a pie chart. Boom. It's gonna have more simplistic understanding of what you're doing, but then we can still tell what's happening by using corresponding tables to interact and change the shape of it. It looks better, it's digestible, and makes sense. So here's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna use a Spotify data set to analyze the number of streams per label. And again, in this chart, you can see it shows a percentage and the number. We're gonna get those exact same data points from this visual that's actually interactive. You can pick between streams and percentages, as well as a good looking pie chart that has a KPI in the center of it. So let's dive into Power BI. All right, so here we are. Within this Power BI dashboard, I have two other videos that are referencing it. One that's going around pertaining to filters, so check that out, the new button slicer video. It's gonna show you how to make very interactive slicers on the top and both on the bottom with how to interact and work with the data. A second one is how to create this interactive in a 100% bar chart, converting and unpivoting measures into values. But for today, we're gonna dive into pie charts, how to make a good looking pie chart that's interactive, that tells a story, as well as a table where you can switch between the percentages and the number of streams. Check that out. So the bad example, pie chart. Again, the data between the two is the same, but if you look at this, it's an eyesore. The label is shown on the right-hand side, and then a billion slivers. So for example, Universal Music Group, well, they have 42 billion streams, equating to 14.1% of the total market. So if we want to look at that, let's go to the new example, and we actually get more information because now we're still taking those totals and breaking them down by genre as well for rock, pop, or other. So Universal Music Group, we can still see the 41.7 billion. Then we can see how those are broken up by rock, pop, by genre, as well as in the total stream percentage, 14%, 14%, and it's breaking down those percentages across that. So it's gonna have everything you need. It looks so much better, and this is how you can use pie charts. So what we're gonna do, that's the overview of the goal. We're gonna build this from scratch by taking this and essentially converting it and building what we saw in the other tab. So let's do this. Here's the process. We're gonna look at the data. I'm gonna go to the lab tab. We're gonna build this together. The file is in GitHub and the link in this video. So go open it, follow along. This is a concept that will just make your dashboards look so much better. Follow along, get this principle built into your mind. So a review of the data is gonna show that we're gonna care about this Spotify. Essentially, it's a bunch of Spotify streams, categories about it. But what we're going to care about today is the label, and as well as a genre column I created, the genre group, and then the number of streams. So let's start with that. And what we'll do is on the lab tab, let's start by copying over what we want to get to, which are these items. And we're going to get there together. Don't sync. So this is what we want to get to, and in this top section, we're going to build to it. So I'll zoom in so we can see more. That'll be helpful. And let's go. All right. So the first thing we're going to want to do is I'm going to turn on this click animation here so you can see what's happening, is let's start by creating the pie chart. Again, here's how you make the bad one, so you can just get that example. If you go to Spotify, and I know that within every album, there's a label. And if I pick the number of streams, which is going to be under calculations, number of streams, and then pie chart, here's our bad example. Super quick. It does have the information that we care about, though. You'll see the label, the numbers. So how do we get it to where we can see and do all these cool things down here? All right, so let's start that process together. What we're gonna do first is build this pie chart with the formatting principles so it looks good, it's readable. And the second one will build this, how they interact and tell the same story in the same amount of space, but you have way more control and flexibility about what we're doing here. So what we're gonna do for this pie chart is we'll remove the legend, and we want the legend to be this genre that we've created. So what you're gonna, where you will find that at is under the artist genre group. Okay, so principle number one, when deciding to use a donut chart or pie chart is, oh, I forgot one part. Let me bring this over here too. This cool KPI in the background. That right there. So a pie chart, you're gonna have wasted space in the middle. Let's not ever use a pie chart, use a donut chart, because we can, as you see, stack extra data on there to tell a complete story. This is a total of 29 billion streams broken up in these categories for each percentage around the horn. So let's do that. So we're gonna start here, we're gonna change this to donut chart. Okay, good. Let's just get the general size to be about the same as what we have down there. Okay, good. So with this, we're gonna go through the formatting options you have for a pie chart. On the left-hand side, you'll see that under the visual, size, title, legend, slices, details, rotation. I don't care about the title, it's just wasting space, turn that off. For the size and style, the background, let's just remove it. So we're getting closer. It just seems cleaner, better looking when you don't have those things enabled. As we work our way down, we'll adjust padding and other things as well. But as you work your way through this process, the eyes go to a visual and they read it top down or left to right. So based upon your preference, either put the legend in the top or the left. Don't put it on the right, because they want to know first, what am I looking at, then how many of them are there? So in this case, I like to put it in the top center. Let's start by formatting the legend with some additional stuff. Again, we're just looking at this, where the text, we need it to be white so it can show up. And the title, we'll keep the title on there, but I don't need the word group. It's just an additional complex. So you can update the title with whatever you want by customizing that section. And I like to make things small as possible. So this text, let's make it 9. We don't need much more. I think this is 9, 9. Cool. So that legend is now already looking better. Let's keep progressing. The slices. Let's set the colors. So pop is going to be pink, rock, blue, other, gray, signifying kind of empty. So that right there is setting up the colors for what we're looking for. Now you can see there's width differences, there's usage of space and data labels. So let's continue. Again, as you build this out, set your colors so it's a good tone. You can choose a color palette from websites such as like coolers.com and varying other places. Within the spacing, this is a clutch thing. With the donut, this is gonna tell you how much spacing do we want in the middle. You know, we can bring this way down, make it look like a skinny little thing, a washer, or extend it. And again, you just get more space when you extend it and you tell the exact same story because it's going around. So this is where a donut chart's just superior to pie. We don't need to have those extra slices. They're just not valuable. In this case, I chose 75, so let's set this to 75. And look at that. That donut is looking good. So let's keep progressing. And I'll just square this thing up so it's the same deal as that. Cool. Oops, I think it was a bit farther over. All right, so that's how you set up the slices. Now the labels, there are some important things here that you can choose from. What I like to do is we're gonna put the color to be white so it stands out, make the values as small as possible, but you're gonna see a couple of things. With the data labels for a donut chart, it's gonna have an auto-formatted first amount and then the percentage, because that's what I have selected. In this section, you can choose outside, inside, prefer outside. That's just if there's more attributes, it will kind of switch them around. And you can choose whatever you want. For the case of the space of this, sometimes it will make sense to pick outside, sometimes inside. I like to usually set it. But as I know that there's gonna be 3 categories, rock, pop, and other, I wanna put it on it. I just think it looks better. But you can use your own taste with that one. So in this case, inside. But now the values, let's format those. So they are white, and let's see the different things we can pick here. So for the display units, because there's space available, let's use it. If we have space, use it. So we don't need to, let's unabbreviate these things by changing the display units to none. We'll get that full number, and we're good to there. So what you can do as well for the percentage to decimals and the percentage for the number as well, I put this to 0 just to keep it rounded and whole versus like, you know, if you put a 2 here on the right-hand side where I am, you know, there's extra decimals, and you can do that if you care about that level of detail. In this case, we'll keep it at 0. And sometimes display units, you know, maybe you want a few things at thousands. If you know, it's always gonna be big millions, but I like none. It kind of brings a data validity to what you're building. It's saying, here's the number, it's accurate, check it. So that's set up for there. And now the rotation, if you wanted to mess with this, you can. It's kind of just, you know, moving the things around to where they start and stop. But ultimately, I just use it at the default for the way I kind of do it, where it's starting right there. Boom, right in the middle. So we have the bar chart set up, and that's a good formatted, donut chart. But our goal is to analyze labels. And the reason why the bad example of the pie chart is for this, because I can't analyze the labels by looking at this. I have to click around, try to click this and understand it. It's the wrong visual. The right visual is a table where you can scroll through, it's gonna order things up, and you can see a breakdown of it. So let's first, I guess, finish this by adding the KPI to the middle. So here is what's cool, is as we have created space, now let's add some additional objects to that space to utilize it. So we're gonna very simply click streams, create a KPI. We're gonna come up here and filter it, picking the new card. And here we go. So now let's just do some basic formatting for this. Size and style. And again, I have a KPI video you can check out as well. If you search the slicer button, and we'll talk through how to do all that kind of stuff. Or the new card visual. So let's keep going with the formatting of this one. We're gonna take out the background. Again, there's gonna be an object and a button. We won't go too far into detail in this, but there's a whole other like 30-minute video that does. So I'm gonna hit the high points with this. In this case, for this card, I'm just gonna want it to always show what it shows. That means I'm not gonna change things based upon certain series. And what I would like is the fill off, the callout value, which we will find under callout value. I want this to be white. I want the display units again to be none. And you can see that number is a little too big to fit in that section right there. So let's change that up. Maybe try like 20. What I pick here? 11. Smaller number. You can pick the number to your size. Again, this is the concept. As things are, or as this is going to be in the middle, let's center it. Oops, 1 second, sorry about that. And we'll center that here. And so now it's centered. Let's continue by changing the label now, which is going to be this number of streams. I want this to be that Spotify green color, and let's bold it. And now we've got ourselves a tile, but you can see it's kind of like it cuts off. So that's going to be padding. Let's adjust that padding. Here's how you do that. Under the button, there's padding. We'll go to custom. We're going to set this to 0. 0 all the way around. Now you can take this guy, drag it, fit it into your space, and voila. Oh, there's one more thing. Looks like there's a border. So let's go back to the size and style. Where is this border? Let's turn this border off. We don't want that. That's going to be on the card. Let's see here. Where is it? When in doubt, just search it. border off. See you later. Very helpful. When you can't find something, just search for it. You'll get it. Look at that. Now we have a good looking donut chart. This is the way you want to format these things. So let's start with the table. What I'm going to do is come up to the top here and click the stacked bar chart. Drag it into the section. And what we're going to do is we're going to start just by using the streams. And then we'll eventually add another measure and I'll show you how we're going to get this switching motion. But first we're going to build the foundation or base of this table. Or bar chart, sorry, not a table. So what we're going to do is come to here, go to calculations. We're going to do streams. We're going to break this up by within the album. There's a label. We're going to add the label to the axis. And then we are going to create a legend, which will separate it by the genre that we created. So I'm going to add the genre group to the legend. These three things, these are the basics. So now let's start with the overall big formatting first. What we want to do is these charts are intuitive, so we're going to turn off a lot of things. We don't need a title. For the y-axis, we don't need a title. For the x-axis on the right-hand side, we don't need a title. We also don't need these values. So it's all about decluttering. Take stuff off, declutter things. You'll get more usage for the visual itself and the data. So let's keep going. What we'll notice is let's set the background. So we'll kind of work our way down the formatting section, size and style. The key thing here is we're going to turn off the background as well as there's the default padding. I want to maximize what we're dealing with here. And so I want to set this to 0, 0, 0, 0. That's just taking as much space as possible. I always recommend just doing that. You're going to be able to utilize more canvas that way. So within this, let's start to make some things show up. So firstly, with the legend, at the top here, I already have a legend over here. I don't need to duplicate it again because you can see we're going to put a different button there instead. So I'm going to remove it. Declutter, we don't need that. But I do need to modify this y-axis. So firstly, the values, let's make them white, but let's make them smaller so we can just fit more on the screen. And a key column or key attribute you can adjust within these bar charts is the width. So if I go far right, it's just going to fit more text, but I think we'll do it right around 27%. This one's at 29, so we'll make it match. And you just find that sweet spot that works for you for how you can fit this data into there. So we'll go through a couple of other key things. For the bars, let's set the color. So gray, we know it's going to be empty. For pop, we have, let me scroll down so we have a little bit more space. For pop, we want to have that pink color. And for rock, we're going to have this blue color. Okay, great. So the chart itself is getting closer. Let's do a few other key formatting things. We're going to turn on the total labels. And as you can see, these come on, but let's adjust a few things with them. So the total labels, let's have them be that Spotify green. And one thing you can notice is that it's just repeating a lot of values, 1 billion, because we don't have enough granularity. So what we can do is make the font smaller just so we get more space and change the decimal places to 1. I want it to always show 1. You could even do 2 if you felt like it, show more values. But this is a great way to keep values summarized with display units auto, but just show decimals to get a little bit more data in there. So let's change a couple of other things. Let's add the data labels. So within this chart, I can click the data labels. For the series, let's choose all the series. And let's make them first. Let's make these values just a little bit smaller. 8. Okay, that's great. So if we did choose the display units none, you'll see it just shows. It works great for the donut chart, but for this, it's just too much. So there's times when you want to use this so you can get more context and more values out of it, which is what we did in this case here. What else we can do is, as you see what I just clicked, is this is a cool new feature for the data labels. Within a table, if you go to the data label section, you can pick a series. So in this case, I'm going to just choose other. You know, as an example, maybe I want to turn this off. Look right here, it's gone. This is other. What I want to do is a small little site formatting. How you can see this is all white and this is black. Well, I chose to come down to the color and change this to black. So it's just as an example of a small formatting tip that you can do there. Awesome. So now these work intentionally together. I can click on one of these. It's going to break down the percentages on the left-hand side, but we're missing one key component. And that is, how do we get from the bad example, this percentage of total, universal music group, 14%. Okay, well, the way that we're visualizing this data is much better. We can interact with it, we can utilize it, but now let's add first, we'll create the measure that's gonna allow that, and then we'll create this toggle where we can switch back and forth. So first, let's look at a little bit of some DAX, and there's a calculation here called percent total number of streams. I'll zoom in, it's very simple. What this is doing is it's saying, calculate the number of streams for all selected. So across the whole entire table of Spotify, aggregate all the streams. But the key thing is since I chose all selected, it's going to take in filters or interactivity from outside this query and filter it down if necessary. If you use all, then it will not use the filtering. So very simplistically, for the total percent of total of something, the first variable is you calculate just a total number of all the streams in the whole entire table that pertain to what's selected, and then just divide it. Divide the number of streams calculation by the total. So we have that here, percent total of streams. And so what we can do just as an example first is come over to this. I'm going to remove the number of streams. I'm going to add this. Cool. So that works. That shows now Universal Music Group, that 14% of the total, Columbia 10.4%. So we have all the values we want. Now, if we actually want to click this, again, on the left-hand side, we can see how it interacts. It looks way better. But how do we toggle it? This is something that's just a key trick that I love to do on so many things, and it's creating a parameter, a field level parameter. Very simplistically. In this case, what's existing, it's called chart options, but we'll make something new so you can see how it works, and then you can use it in your own way as you see fit. It's very easy. So under modeling, new parameter fields, and what this does is it says just add some fields, and this will allow you to select a field to pass through. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to go to the Spotify calculations. I want to have number of streams, and then I also want to have the percent total of streams. And I'll call this, we'll call this chart selection, so we know what that is. Done. Now you'll see there's chart selection. What it does automatically is it creates a filter. So you can pick between the values you just created. What that looks like is this. Now there's an actual parameter, a field parameter called chart selection. So what I'm going to do is come to this table, go, and instead of having the value be this percentage of total, I'm going to pick chart selection, that new parameter I just created. And now check this out. For whatever I pick, if I pick number of streams, total number of streams, it changes on the right-hand side now, which is awesome. And this is a way, because it's taking those fields and passing it into the model. So now we can format the filters to match that way. And the way you can do that, we'll go through this process fairly quick. As you go to size and style, I'm going to disable the background and then change this actually to the new KPI. And we're going to change a couple of things within this. So we're going to go through the process of, for the layout, we're going to have one row, two columns. There you go. For the title, we don't need a title. It's going to be pretty intuitive what we're dealing with here. For the button, and I'm going through these fast. There's another tutorial I have that's actually created that goes through the example of how to set these up for all these filters, and you should watch it. It makes life way easier. So click over to that and watch it. It's going to be in more detail of how to really go through this process, but I'm going to just go through some general formatting stuff. So within this then, as you have created it, there's some key things you can update. I'm going to, as I make this smaller, you'll see it doesn't really move with it. So within the button, we'll look at some things we can change in the button. And I'm going to first adjust the padding to be custom. And I want this to be 0, 0, 0. and then I'll continue to expand this and make this 0. And so as I've done that, now I can shrink it up more, which is good. I'm going to put the value, the callout value, right there in the center. Boom. And let's make it a little bit smaller, just a little bit too big. And then you can adjust. This is where what I'm going to do is, this is really duplicative of another tutorial. So check out the new slicer button tutorial. It's going to go through how to set all of these slicer things up, and you'll be set with that. But what I'm going to do just to conclude this one is, if you take this, you can do Format Painter, come up here, it will apply everything I already created to these same buttons, and there you go. And now you're going to have buttons that you can go through and click, and it will toggle. And this is a much better way to create an opportunity for your end users to view data than this. If you ever see a pie chart that looks like this, just stop, pivot, think about what questions are we trying to answer, and then do that by utilizing potentially a combination of multiple visuals, and you'll have a way more interactive experience. So like, subscribe, leave me any comments. I'm always happy to answer questions. Check out the new slicer button tutorial. It's 40 minutes. It's going to show you how to set up all the details of the accent bar, the hover, the clicking, the whole deal. So check that out, and take care. Enjoy some Power BI. Bye.